The steel door slammed shut behind Michael Turner, echoing like a judge's gavel. He stood in the empty corridor of Meridian Technologies, heart hammering in his chest. Rain pattered against the high-rise windows, streaking the city lights into blurry streaks. With gloved hands, he tapped his badge against the scanner to leave, but the turnstile didn't budge. His phone buzzed. He swiped it open to find an email from Cassandra Wells, the newly appointed vice president of operations and niece of the company's owner. The subject line read, "Your position eliminated." Michael exhaled, reading her clip message. Michael. Effective immediately, your role is redundant. Please clear out your desk by 5 p.m. today. Meridian appreciates your many years of service. Cassandra Wells. His vision narrowed. 17 years of pre-dawn server diagnostics, marathon code deployments, and weekend on-call duty reduced to 3 arrogant sentences. The badge scanner finally clicked, allowing him to pass. He marched to his office, each step tasting like betrayal. Inside the cubicle farm, dim screens flickered on mid-morning break. Engineers glanced up anxiously, murmuring condolences. Michael placed his coffee mug, etched with his daughter's name, in the center of his desk drawer and began unhooking cables. Every USB stick, access card, and personal photograph went into a leather briefcase. As he packed, he remembered the subtle changes, the sudden consultant visits, late-night configuration, updates he didn't authorize, and the whispered hallway meetings. Now the email was confirmation. He closed his laptop with deliberate calm, sliding it into the case. A single line of code remained on the screen, a monitoring script he'd hidden years ago. It blinked, status okay, but only until he decided otherwise. Michael zipped the briefcase, slipped it over his shoulder, and walked out with a measured nod to his colleagues. The storm outside mirrored his fury. Yet beneath the anger, a quiet determination stirred. They'd underestimated him. The real reckoning had only just begun. Michael stood in the threshold of Daniel's office for a moment longer than he intended, as if the polished mahogany doorframe itself might offer respite. The hallway lights glared off the speaker arrays overhead, the low hum of machines and murmured conversations creating a sterile white noise backdrop. He could feel the expanse of cubicles behind him, his former domain, but today he was an interloper, a relic of a system that the new regime had decided to discard. Emma Davis sat behind the desk, back as straight as the corporate ladder she'd climbed. Sunlight poured through the panoramic windows, gilding her dark hair and reflecting off the half-empty glass of Chardonnay at her elbow. She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with the cool authority of someone too young to have earned it. Daniel hovered to her right, arms casually folded, face unreadable. Michael, Emma began, voice measured, almost rehearsed. Evergreen Solutions is evolving. As part of our strategic realignment, your role will be terminated effective immediately. I'm sorry for the abruptness, but the decision is final. Evolving. Michael echoed, stepping across the threshold so the door clicked softly shut behind him. He took a slow breath and let it out through his nose. You call this evolution? He gestured around the opulent office. When I joined Meridian, as was this department, was 2 desks and a cubicle pod. I built the network from dial-up modems to cloud architecture. I trained every one of those junior coders out there. He nodded towards the corridor. 3 CEOs, 2 mergers, dozens of layoffs later. I'm still the guy who knows the back door to every server. Emma's expression flickered nothing more than a tremor. Your contributions are recognized. But Mrs. Davis has a vision, lean, agile, and data first. We need fresh perspectives, people unencumbered by legacy protocols. He fought the impulse to laugh. Fresh perspectives from someone who's never laid hands on a router rack. Unencumbered because I documented every protocol, every patch, every contingency plan in a folder you'll never understand. Michael's voice lowered, turning gravelly. You and Daniel can flip through spreadsheets and buzzwords all you like, but you can't replace 17 years of institutional memory in 2 weeks. Daniel took a half step forward. We appreciate your service, Michael. Severance details are on the table. He tapped a stack of papers on Emma's desk. Emma slid them across. The top sheet bore a polite header: severance agreement. Beneath were hours of pay and months of benefits, generous to an outsider, insulting to the man who had kept the lights on through 3 major outages. You have until COB today to sign, she said. HR will assist with the transition. Michael looked at the numbers. He saw not gratitude, but a payoff intended to silence him. He collected the folders, thumbed through them without reading. I understand, he said, voice level. He placed them back. My transition only begins tomorrow. Emma's lips thinned. Daniel's jaw flexed. They exchanged a glance neither concealed. Now, if you'll excuse me, Michael continued, pivoting on his heel. I have backups to verify. He strode out, each footstep echoing authority reclaimed. As the corridor swallowed him, he added one silent vow. He would not go quietly. Once outside, He paused under the fluorescent tubes in the bullpen. The junior analysts pretended to work, but their eyes flicked toward him fear, confusion, relief. He let the silence stretch, letting them stew in uncertainty. Then he turned and walked back to his desk to gather his personal effects, his mind already racing to the next move. Michael's car eased into the garage, the engine's hum dying away as he killed the ignition. A sliver of late-afternoon sun filtered through the frosted window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Inside, he could smell Sarah's Sunday night spaghetti sauce still clinging to the stove. Faint echoes of his children's laughter drifted from upstairs. He grabbed his messenger bag and opened the door. "Sarah?" he called, stepping into the narrow hallway lined with family photos, Ethan's first baseball game, Lily's kindergarten graduation. The warmth of home felt suddenly alien. She stood at the kitchen island, phone pressed to her ear, shoulders hunched. When she hung up, her eyes burned with impatience. "You're late?" she snapped, voice sharp as a knife. "And of course jobless." He set the bag down, unhooked his keys. "They let me go today," he said quietly. Sarah's hand flew to her forehead. "They let you go. Michael, we just remortgaged. The bank papers are on the counter. How do we explain this to our savings? To the boys?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I'll handle it. Give me a moment." Her scoff rattled him. "Handle it? You've been telling me that for weeks. Those late nights, the closed-door meetings, why didn't you tell me something was wrong?" He hesitated. "I thought I could fix it before it got out of hand." Sarah's lip trembled. "You fixed everything at work, didn't you? Except our marriage." He pressed his palms to the cool granite countertop. "I'm sorry." The single word felt insufficient. "But I need to check the accounts. There's something I have to see." She watched him, a mixture of pain and resignation in her gaze, as he climbed the stairs. In his study, the overhead light buzzed, illuminating rows of books, and a modest server rack humming in the corner, his sanctuary for 2 decades. He sank into the swivel chair and opened the laptop. The browser's address bar glowed with the bookmarked URL of the Cedar Grove Federal Credit Union, his fallback for emergencies. Logging in, he saw the joint account balance 0. A silent alarm thumped in his head. He pulled up the PDF statements, scanning backward. Numerous wire transfers appeared. $9,800 here, $12,300 there, always just under the $10,000 reporting threshold. Each was sent to Cascade Tech Group, a name he didn't recognize. His fingertips tingled as he clicked the vendor profile, a shell address in a UPS store. No website beyond a blank landing page. His pulse quickened. He opened the internal expense system, something only he and HR had admin access to. Software maintenance entries matched the amounts, yet the vendor invoices he once approved showed far lower figures. He cross-checked invoice numbers, line items appended with slight markups, 14%, 17% round numbers to disguise the fraud. A low whistle escaped his lips. He exported the transactions into a spreadsheet, highlighted suspicious rows in red, then created a new folder labeled Meridian Evidence. He dragged bank statements, vendor invoices, and system logs inside. His breath evened, a familiar calm settled. The detective in him had awoken. A soft creak from the stairwell made him glance up. Sarah stood in the doorway, arms folded. "What did you find?" she asked quietly. Michael closed the laptop's lid with deliberate calm. They've been siphoning millions. $2.2 million, hidden in plain sight. Her eyes widened, tears glinting. What do we do?" He stood, meeting her gaze. "We gather proof. Then we bring them down." Sarah's shoulders sagged as she stepped forward. "Michael, I'm scared." He reached out, brushing her hair back. "I know, but you won't have to face this alone." The afternoon light softened as they stood together in the doorway to his makeshift command center. The battle lines were drawn, and Michael's plan of action had begun. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time Michael slipped out of his car and under the buzzing neon of the Rusty Spoon Diner. He paused on the wet pavement, glancing up at the battered sign at Red Half Spoon, half dark, before tucking the manila envelope under his arm and stepping inside. Inside, the bell above the door jingled, and the scent of coffee and frying bacon drifted through the air. The cramped dining area was nearly empty. A single elderly couple at a corner table. A teenager hunched over a milkshake, and Linda Chen sitting alone in a back booth, her coat folded neatly on the seat beside her. Michael eased into the booth opposite her. Rainwater dripped from his coat onto the vinyl seat. Linda stared at him with cautious eyes, fingers drumming on the manila packet. "Glad you found the place," she said quietly, lowering her voice as she folded the envelope open. She pulled out a stack of spreadsheets, each one densely packed with highlighted lines, vendor names, and cryptic notations. He watched her assemble the papers methodically, a practiced precision he recognized from his late-night audits. "I need you," he said, voice low enough that even the humming neon outside couldn't pick it up. "They've moved funds through at least 4 shell companies. It's systematic." Linda slid a spreadsheet toward him, columns of dates and dollar amounts that climbed like a Skype or blueprint. "This is staggering," she murmured, tracing a red circle transaction with her fingertip. "Who set up the accounts?" Michael clenched his jaw. "Emma Davis signed off on my severance. The paperwork went through internal channels. No one suspected a thing. Sarah has no clue." He paused, ashamed. "She thinks I'm hiding a midlife crisis, not corporate fraud." Linda nodded, empathy in her eyes. "I'll load these onto an isolated VM tonight, air gapped from everything. Then I'll run forensic scripts to reconstruct the money trail, identify the beneficiaries. But I'll need remote access to your server logs." He pulled a small, encrypted hard drive from his bag. "Everything you need is here: timestamps, access credentials, incremental backups. No paper trail in HR's folder." A waitress passed with a pot of coffee and 2 mugs. Linda poured one, steam curling between them. Michael sipped gratefully, feeling his shoulders unclench. For the first time since losing his job, he could taste hope. He leaned forward. "Once you confirm the chain of custody, I'll send packages to Andrew Morales at the SEC and Agent Patel at the FBI. They'll open formal investigations." Linda's gaze hardened. "If we leak this, they'll come after us: NDAs, lawsuits, personal reputations. Are you ready for that?" Michael met her eyes steadily. "I'm more afraid of doing nothing. This company betrayed me. I won't let them destroy others." She closed her folder and slipped the USB drive into her bag. "I'll need a burner phone number. I'll ping you when the analysis is done. Until then, no digital footprints. Trust no one." Michael drew a deep breath. "Agreed." He offered a hand across the table. Linda shook it firmly. As they stood and stepped into the damp night, the neon sign sputtered overhead, casting fractured light on their determined faces. 2 allies, bound by shared outrage, disappeared separately into the mist, ready to expose the corporate underworld hidden in the ledger. Michael's knuckles whitened around the steering wheel as he waited in the empty strip mall lot. The distant hum of late-night traffic and the occasional drip of water from a broken gutter were the only sounds. He tapped the brake pedal twice, a nervous tick glancing at the dashboard clock. 12:07 a.m. His phone vibrated in his jacket pocket. He thumbed it to speaker mode. "Michael?" Linda's voice crackled through the speaker, urgent and tired. "I'm here," he replied, forcing his voice low so no one prowling the parking lot would hear. "You got it?" A pause. Then, every bit. Linda exhaled, as though she'd been holding her breath for an hour. "I reconstructed the full transaction chain, 2,200 wires of varying sizes, 4 shell companies funneling the money, then siphoned off in micropayments to offshore accounts. I also pulled down email headers and meta information. Emma Davis personally approved the March 12th transfer at 14:43. The CFO replied with proceed per instructions. No questions asked." Michael felt a surge of vindication. "Can you package it so the SEC and FBI accept it without routing through corporate HR?" "Yes." Linda's voice was calm but resolute. "I've encrypted everything with these 256 on an air-gapped VM. I used a fresh burner laptop, a one-time VPN, and a Tor exit node in Germany. No logs. I'll send you a magnetized USB. The thumb drive contains a signed forensic report with hashed file integrity checks." He exhaled, rubbing his eyes. "Drop it at the safe drop address?" "Exactly. And I've CC Agent Patel's direct line, so she'll see it immediately. I also forwarded key documents to Andrew Morales at the SEC just in case." She paused. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" Michael's chest tightened at the thought of dawn, when the world would learn the truth. More than ever. He parked beneath a flickering street lamp and clicked the trunk release. "Listen, thank you. I owe you my career." Linda interjected, soft but firm. "You'll owe yourself something bigger if you let this go. Don't second-guess it." He snapped the trunk shut, walked around the car, and met her gaze through the tinted glass. "It's done." He opened the driver's door. "Stay safe." "You too." She hung up. Inside the trunk lay a small padded envelope. Michael opened it to reveal the magnetized USB and a handwritten note. "When you plug me in, use the Avera guarded port. Autoplay disabled." He slid the stick into his pocket and sealed the envelope. He pressed home on the ignition, the engine's rumble surfacing a roar in the silent night. As he drove away, he felt the weight of the coming hours. The CC investigators setting up in Columbus, the FBI agents watching computer screens, the urgent call to action cascading through his evidence folder. More than that, he felt the fragile urgency of protecting Sarah and the boys. If the walls tumbled, he would shield them from the rubble. Approaching his motel on the outskirts of town, he flicked on the overhead map light and drafted a text to his brother Jeff. Safe. Evidence en route. Might be offline tomorrow. Keep home cameras on. He hit send, then climbed the stairs to his room, mind spinning through contingencies, lodging for Sarah and the kids, legal aid retainer, press embargo requests. He set the envelope on the nightstand and booted his laptop, this time connected via his own VPN to double-check the drop logs. A green banner flashed, upload successful. No errors detected. He nodded, satisfied. Finally, he lay back on the stiff motel bed, exhaustion hitting him like a freight train. Tomorrow, his phone would ring at 6 a.m. with calls from federal agents. But tonight, he closed his eyes, feeling the briefest hollow of relief. Scene set, evidence delivered, the trumpets of justice would sound at dawn, courtesy of a once-fired analyst determined to make the whole building fall. At 6:15 a.m., rain-streaked FBI black-tinted Suburbans and unmarked SUVs lined Meridian Technologies' empty parking lot. Michael watched from the driver's seat of his rented sedan as Agent Patel, raincoat hood up, badge glinting, strode toward him. Flanked by 2 tactical agents, she handed him a sealed, clear evidence bag. "Are you set?" she asked, voice low amid the rumble of diesel engines. Michael pocketed the USB and nodded. "Let's do this." Paddle tapped her earpiece. "All units, move in. Command to Alpha, entry point Bravo. Secure the perimeter." He followed her across the lot. Teams fanned out, some blocking exits, others covering windows. A dark-suited SWAT operator smashed the side lobby door's glass panel. Agents spilled into the atrium, rifles up, badges out, yelling, "FBI." Down on the ground. Inside, Michael's pulse raced as he and Patel navigated past startled security guards and shocked receptionists. Fluorescent lights bathed the lobby in a harsh glare. Patel guided him through the turnstiles using her own override key. They reached the server room corridor. "Stay close," she warned, sliding a tactical boot across the maglock sensor. The door hissed open. Inside, banks of servers hummed like sleeping beasts. Patel and 2 tech-trained agents donned gloves and masks. Michael watched as Patel plugged in her secure imaging workstation. "Start with the main node," she instructed a tech agent. "Clone the RAID array. Then move to the backup nodes. Capture logs from 0000 last night to present every login attempt." Michael crouched beside the racks, heart pounding. He flicked on a dedicated forensic tablet and keyed in the admin override Patel had arranged. Within seconds, drive spun up, LEDs blinking. He exhaled. "It's live." Meanwhile, officers swept Emma Davis's glass-walled office down the hall. Davis, in a silk blouse, sank to her knees as agents cuffed her and slapped a right sticker on the door. The CFO emerged next, hands raised, escorted with equal firmness. Michael glimpsed them being led past. Davis's eyes met his briefly, a flicker of recognition or regret before the agents pushed her onward. Patel checked her watch. "We have 15 minutes before management files an injunction. Let's move fast." Michael snapped photos of the data feed's transaction logs, flagged entries, and time-stamped anomalies. Agents bagged personal laptops from the CFO's desk, sealed filing cabinets, and collected printed invoices strewn on a conference table. A paralegal in business attire tried to protest. A tactical agent gently bent his arms behind him. "Later. For now, down on the floor." Outside, uniformed FBI officers placed crime scene tape around the entrance. A hush fell as cherry red and blue lights painted the reflective glass. Reporters lined the curb, cameras clicking. Michael slipped away through a side service entrance, the rain washing away his footprints. By 7:45 a.m., 6 marked evidence vans sat idling, each laden with boxes marked Meridian Tech Fraud. Michael stood under the awning, breathing deeply, as Patel rejoined him. "Server images are complete," she said. "Chain of custody intact. I've forwarded decryption keys to the SEC and FBI lab." He wiped rain from his brow. "You just saved half the city." She gave him a rare smile. "You saved the other half. Let's get you home safe." He nodded, slipping back into his sedan. As he drove away, the tower receded behind flickering lights and taped-off entrances, proof that a single fired analyst and a brave compliance officer could bring down a corporate empire from the inside. Michael eased his sedan into the familiar quiet of his suburban cul-de-sac just after 6 a.m. Dawn's pale light pooled on the dew-damp driveway. He grabbed his briefcase and reached for the front door handle when a sharp crack split the morning air. In the same instant, something streaked past his ear, and a white-hot pain exploded in his right shoulder. He staggered, the welcome mat beneath him blossoming scarlet. His training kicked in. Michael dropped to one knee, yanked off his jacket, and pressed the hem against the wound. Gritting his teeth, he clutched the blood-soaked fabric, vision blurring. Across the street, a dark shape vanished behind the hedges. He fought the urge to scream. Fumbling with shaking fingers, Michael dialed 911. Shot shoulder, 142 Maple Grove Lane. His voice cracked. Please, hurry. He slid the door closed, locked it on instinct, then crawled along the hallway, leaving a trail of crimson. He collapsed at the foot of the stairs. Within minutes, red and blue lights flooded the windows. Paramedics burst in, their faces grim but focused. One knelt beside him, peeling back his jacket to assess the wound. Another inserted an IV line. Michael's world narrowed to a haze of antiseptic, shouted instructions, and the sting of morphine entering his veins. As they loaded him onto a gurney, he managed a single thought: betrayal had become bullets. 3 hours later, Michael lay in a narrow hospital bed, his right arm in a blue sling. The bullet had missed the lung by inches but shredded muscle and deltoid tendon. His senses were dulled by painkillers. The ceiling tiles above him swam in soft focus. Outside, the sun climbed, casting stripes of light through the blinds. His phone buzzed on the bedside table. He squinted at the caller ID, Daniel Campbell, HR. Michael's heart sank, but he tapped answer. Michael, Daniel said briskly, voice echoing through the hospital curtain. The board reviewed the FBI and SEC findings. They realized the error. They want you back, Chief Security Officer, full salary, full authority. Michael closed his eyes, feeling the IV drip pattern in his arm. Dust motes floated in the sunbeam. He pictured Orion Cyber's logo on the offer letter in his jacket pocket. He inhaled slowly. Daniel, he said, voice quiet but firm. Thank you for the offer and for admitting the truth. But I've accepted Orion's proposal. They believe in my vision. I won't be returning. A pause crackled over the line. I understand. I hope this injury heals quickly. You earned this destiny, Michael? He hung up and set the phone aside. The corridor beyond whispered with nurses' footsteps and distant beeping monitors. Michael rested his head back on the pillow, a soft smile ghosting his lips. Betrayal had nearly cost him everything, but now he was free to rebuild on his terms. Late afternoon rain glossed the avenue as Michael climbed the narrow stairs to Linda Chen's law office. Each step sent a dull ache through his freshly bandaged shoulder. He paused at the top, steeling himself, then rapped twice on the dark mahogany door. Inside, the muffled hum of a white noise machine and the scent of polished oak filled the cramped hallway. Linda opened before he finished the third knock. She wore a charcoal suit that matched the seriousness in her eyes. Her desk lamp threw a warm circle of light onto antique law books and a meticulously organized notary seal. Michael, she said, voice low but urgent, stepping aside to let him in. He sank into a leather chair, wincing as the sling dug into his side. Linda poured herbal tea, jasmine, and mint, and slid a steaming cup across the cherrywood table. Its fragrant steam curled into the lamplight. He exhaled. Thank you. I didn't know what else to do. Linda set out 3 piles of documents. You did the right thing. These are the preliminary filings. She tapped the first stack: bank statements, showing the $2.225 million in microtransfers. The judge signed the TRO this morning. Meridian's accounts are frozen. Michael studied the red-flagged lines. Cascade Quicklose's escrow account went live 2 days before my firing. Then Mark Davis's account got $500,000 right as I landed in the hospital. His voice cracked at hospital. He closed his eyes, recalling the sniper's bullet tearing through his jacket. Let it out, Linda said gently. He shook his head, then pressed fingertips into his temples. I keep picturing that shot, how close it came on my shoulder. Someone didn't want me unearthing their paper trail. Linda reached across the table, placing a steady hand over his. That's why you have me and Orion Cybersecurity backing you now. You're not alone. He drew a shaky breath and nodded. What's next, exactly? She opened her laptop, the screen reflecting in her glasses. First, civil suit against Meridian, Cascade, and Davis personally. We'll subpoena internal emails, meeting minutes, IP logs, every shred of proof. Second, coordinate with Agent Patel and the FBI's white-collar division. They want your signed affidavit about the assault and the data you supplied. Michael's jaw tightened. I need to protect my reputation with my peers, with my family. I can't have news headlines about a hospital shooting and an espionage scandal. I'll handle media, Linda promised. I have a PR contact who will spin this as you protecting shareholders and lives, not a disgruntled analyst. She smiled wryly. Truth sells better when it's heroic. He managed a weak smile. And Orion, I still have to confirm my start date. Linda retrieved an embossed envelope from her briefcase. Michael's name was printed in gold foil beneath Orion's crest. They want you in 2 weeks. We'll draft a confidentiality agreement to cover the company until you gathered here. He took the envelope, running a finger over the lettering. 2 weeks isn't much time. The house is still tied up in divorce proceedings. The kids, Ethan and Lily, they need stability. I've spoken with your family lawyer, Linda said. Temporary conservatorship of the primary residence will be granted to you. Your ex-wife's access is revoked pending settlement. The children will stay with you. Michael's throat tightened. He felt the weight of every sleepless night, every courtroom step still to come. Thank you, he whispered. Outside, rain softened to a drizzle. Linda pushed back her chair. I'll finalize the filings tonight. Get some rest, real rest. Tomorrow you meet with Orion's CEO, review your strategic plan. He stood, a fern of relief unfurling in his chest. I know I'm exactly where I need to be. As he walked back down the stairway into the damp evening, the city lights reflecting off wet pavement, Michael felt something he hadn't in weeks: purpose. The marble steps of King County Courthouse gleamed under the late morning sun as Michael climbed toward the entrance, his arms secured in a sling that throbbed with each step. Journalist vans lined the curb, but security guards waved them off. Today's hearing was closed to the press. Lisa Chen fell into stride beside him, carrying a manila envelope stamped with the court seal and a folder bulging with exhibits. Inside the hushed foyer, they passed columns carved with century-old justice symbols that Michael now felt he embodied. At the security checkpoint, officers scanned their IDs without a word. Michael's chest tightened as they entered the courtroom proper, high ceiling, dark wood paneling, and a single American flag standing sentinel. Emily sat at the defense table, hair drawn into a tight ponytail. Next to her, the junior attorney shuffled papers nervously. Judge Morales took the bench precisely at 10 a.m. This matter comes before the court on the parties' consent judgment. Her measured voice echoed. She gestured to the first document. It is ordered that Michael Turner shall receive full restitution of $2,225,000 plus interest, that he retains sole title to the property located at 420 Maple Grove, and that he is granted sole legal guardianship of Ethan and Lily Turner until they reach the age of majority. A soft gasp rippled through the gallery as the judge continued. Cascade QLS LLC is dismissed with prejudice. Meridian Technologies is dismissed as a defendant. Mark Davis is found personally liable for fraud and ordered to reimburse legal fees. Emily's attorney rose to object, but the judge cut him off. Counselor, the court has already reviewed the evidence and finds no just cause to alter this decree. Emily's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Michael's heart pounded as the gavel fell. In that instant, 13 months of betrayal, danger, and paper chases crystallized into finality. Outside, Lisa guided him to a bench in the courthouse plaza garden. Cherry blossoms drifted on a light breeze. She handed him 2 warm cups of coffee. Michael wrapped his good hand around the cup, drawing strength from the steam. They did it, he said flatly, tears pricking his eyes. It's over. Lisa squeezed his arm. The civil war is over. The criminal case continues, but your home and children are safe. Michael nodded, wiping his cheek. The office of Orion Cybersecurity awaited his signature later that afternoon. A fresh start beckoned. With renewed resolve, he pulled out his phone and dialed the elementary school office. The receptionist's bright voice crackled through. Mr. Turner. Yes, I'll be there at 3 to pick up Ethan and Lily. He smiled for the first time that morning. At 3 p.m., Michael waited on a weathered bench outside Roosevelt Elementary. The playground gates swung open, and Ethan thundered toward him, followed by Lily, who tripped but recovered with a beaming grin. They tackled him in a bear hug of sticky hands and muddy sneakers. Lily's laughter rang as she traced a rainbow in the sky she had drawn for their snow-capped mountain getaway last winter. Ethan pressed a folded origami crane into Michael's other hand, his first art project since the legal battles began. Michael tousled Ethan's hair and kissed Lily's forehead. How about we grab ice cream and maybe build that mountain in your room with blocks? They chimed in agreement, their voices chiming like bells. He hoisted Lily onto his good hip and tucked Ethan's hand into his. As they walked down the tree-lined sidewalk toward their new chapter, Michael felt the weight of vengeance lift. Justice had been delivered, but love steadfast, undimmable would guide him home. 8 weeks later, Michael stood in the lobby of Orion Cybersecurity's glass-walled headquarters in downtown Seattle, the skyline glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows. His new badge, Director of Strategic Operations, hung on a sleek lanyard around his neck. A fresh leather portfolio held his notes for today's leadership briefing, but he paused to admire the view, Elliott Bay to the west, Mount Rainier's snowy peak beyond. Linda Chen appeared beside him, carrying 2 mugs of artisan coffee. "Ready for your first all hands?" she asked, slipping him a lap. He nodded, sipping slowly. Never felt more alive. The tension of court dates and courthouse corridors had been replaced by focused collaboration. In the boardroom, Orion's CEO, Marcus Delaney, opened the meeting. "Michael, welcome aboard. We're restructuring our Intel Fusion division around your expertise." He gestured to a wall-mounted screen that displayed a global map dotted with security incidents. "Your team will detect and neutralize cyber threats before they strike. We couldn't be happier you chose us." Michael's eyes flicked to a congratulatory email from Meridian Technologies, offering him the very chief information security officer position he'd declined. He minimized it without a second thought. Loyalty and justice had real value more than any title resurrected from betrayal. After the meeting, Marcus tapped him on the shoulder. "When you're settled, we could use your insight on a legacy system overhaul." "Your call." Michael smiled, the echo of past battles now background noise. Back at home that evening, the Turners gathered around their kitchen island. Michael, Ethan, Lily, and Scout wagged at his feet. They stood over fresh-baked cookies, the aroma of vanilla and chocolate mingling with the fireplace's cedar smoke. Lily held a sketch she'd made of their new life, a cabin by the lake, mountains behind, Michael in plain clothes, not uniform. Michael knelt beside her and kissed her forehead. "That's our picture, kiddo." Outside, rain tapped the windows as he looked toward the framed letter from the Fort Worth naval family, the woman whose home he'd protected. He traced her words with his finger. "You saved us when it was easier to walk away." He closed his eyes and exhaled. The path of revenge had been unforgiving, but the destination was redemption for those he loved and for himself. That night, Michael Turner stood on the balcony of his new Seattle loft. Scout curled at his feet and gazed out over Puget Sound's shimmering expanse. As city lights danced beneath an indigo sky, he cradled a steaming mug of herbal tea and reflected on the storm he had weathered: emails of betrayal, courtrooms, and a narrow escape from violence, all to protect his family and his integrity. Back inside, he opened his laptop and drafted a private manifesto he called Lifeguard Protocol, in which he distilled the strategies that had saved him, meticulously document every transaction and security log, establish trusted backups of deeds, powers of attorney, and emergency contacts, configure real-time alerts on bank accounts and credit lines, build a small circle of allies, lawyers, old colleagues, friends who will act decisively in a crisis, and above all, recognize the warning signs early and respond without hesitation. He concluded that while revenge can feel cathartic, the truest victory lies in safeguarding those you love and the principles you stand for. Before closing the file, he composed an email to his Orion team. In the coming weeks, they would launch a personal security workshop, practical tactics everyone can apply to their own lives. Because your home, your peace of mind, and your family are the most precious assets you will ever own. He sent the message, set his mug on the railing, and breathed deep. Before tomorrow's briefing on cyber-physical safeguards, he knew he had one more mission: to live the protocol he had written and to encourage others to do the same.